Okay.
All right, I think we can just do 2 for now. So, hello everyone. I'm going to adjust this. So, welcome to another language workshop. We started a little bit late because for a variety of reasons. Hexel, Colorado here, as usual. We have a spectator, guest Ryan.
How's it going?
And you may recognize Ryan from our La La Land Kind Cafe socials. He's our favorite waiter. And so today we're trying to do this really quickly. If you can kind of sense the rush in my voice, because they're going to close in 30 minutes. We got a long drive. So, but today is a very heavy topic. What are we discussing today?
Today we're discussing immigration and what policies are.
Yes, and so we're going to try to run, basically what we're going to do is we're going to run through what he wants to do, and then we're going to talk about common questions or questions that you might receive when talking about Andrew Yang's policy. So you want to kick us off by kind of reading what he wants to do, kind of set the baseline?
Okay, so as a lot of people know, there are over 11 million undocumented immigrants currently living in the U.S. This has actually been a decline since 2007. They make up 5% of the national workforce, and actually 9% in California and our home state of Texas, and 10% in Nevada. And so they're like a huge part of the American workforce. And they're actually like in industries that require more positions. So a lot of them work in house cleaning, personal care, home aids, construction, and factory production, which are all jobs that need like 800,000 more people to fill their positions in the coming years. 53% of all hired labor on farms is undocumented immigrants, and that like labor is essential to agriculture in America. Studies have shown that if we crack down on foreign-born workers in the U.S., over 3,500 dairy farms would close. And all of this, of course, is without the threat of automation looming over our head. And so it would displace a huge number of people that are in the workforce currently contributing to American taxes and like the huge agriculture industry. Everything that has been done to crack down on the southern border security has been mostly expensive, inefficient, and even disruptive to the environment in a lot of ways. And so it's a pretty broken system that needs a lot of fixing to it. And also, like, immigrants are a great source of new ideas and, just in general, like, bringing a better culture to America. And Andrew Yang actually says in his policy that they should be treasured because they bring so much to America. And as a result of them coming here and then learning, we do lose that culture because we don't appreciate people who come on F1 and H1B visas. And so we have a sort of brain drain. I grew up in Nebraska, which has a huge brain drain from the Midwest. People would get engineering degrees and then move off to California, and you cannot go, 2 seconds without hitting a pothole in Nebraska now. And so this is on a global scale. So we will have people who come here and get degrees in computer engineering, computer science, biology, all of these amazing topics and fields that we need more professionals in. And then we say, okay, well, your visa's done, so I guess get out. And we're losing all of these like amazing minds that could contribute so much to America and its workforce. And it is just terrible, basically, all around. So there's a lot of things that Andrew Yang would do. Do you want to read through some of those?
I'm going to read it. So basically, you can find all this on yang2020.com. And also you can find, have you made the blog post yet?
Yeah, I made the blog post. Okay. If you go to DFW4Yang.com, the most recent blog post has this whole sheet, which can be used as kind of a supplement if you're watching this, or yes.
Yeah, DFW4Yang.com or DallasYangGang.com. Both of those domain names go to the same place. You go to DallasYangGang.com, click blog, or just scroll down. It's also on the homepage. You'll see the latest blog post with our notes. And here's what the policy says. As president, I will enhance the H-1B visa program and give workers who receive positive reviews from their employer the option to remain in America as permanent citizens. Enhance the F1 visa program, which is a student visa. Enhance the F1 visa program to automatically grant any student who graduates with a graduate degree a green card. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that's important. Personally encourage the top students of the world to come to America, start families, and hopefully their kid can be president, which is basically Andrew Yang's life story. secure the southern border and decrease the number of illegal entries, provide an 18-year track to citizenship, the same amount of time it takes for a U.S. foreign citizen to get full rights, more in that in a moment, provided that they pay their taxes and do not commit a felony. Invest heavily in informing immigrant communities of the change and deport any immigrant who does not register. Support the DREAM Act for children brought here by undocumented immigrants. Increase funding to secure landed ports of entry where a lot of drugs enter. Increase funding to customs enforcement that are tasked with preventing human trafficking. Body cams for all ICE agents. Provide resources to asylum courts. Invest in protecting and renewing the Rio Grande, which is a great natural boundary, our state of Texas national boundary. We're in Texas, if you didn't notice. And work with the Mexican government on all these initiatives and invest in technologies like ground sensors and aerial monitoring. Is there anything on this? So there's a lot of things that he wants to do, and there's also a lot of questions that are raised based on these items. And so, Kennedy, what would you say are the top three kind of biggest of all the ones that we just mentioned? Which one is like the top three or the most kind of interesting?
Oh, like of all the policies that he wants to implement?
Yeah, if you would name the top three.
I would say probably for incoming like immigrants or people that are already here, expanding the visa program, the 18-year track to citizenship, and the DREAM Act are probably the three like biggest and all-encompassing ones that would help people. But if I had to pick a fourth, it would be like all of his things to asylum courts and enforcement for drug trafficking.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go into the second half of this where we ask each other questions. And I think it'd be interesting to like have both of us take turns asking the question and then answering it, right?
And maybe after the answer, I could ask you a follow-up question.
Yeah. Okay. So and this is like something that we've normally done off camera, but I think it's good to do this on camera. So let's start with a softball question. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Here it goes. All right. So Kennedy, what would Andrew Yang do for the immigrant community?
First of all, I would like to point out I'm not an immigrant, and so it would be better to ask an immigrant and see what their like top priorities are and what they would want Andrew Yang to do. I would also point you to yang2020.com because he has a whole section on immigration that would be helpful to look at. As far as policies that I can tell you right now, he plans on expanding the worker and student visa programs, as well as providing an 18-year track to citizenship, which is as long as you and I had to wait to become citizens here. And he would also support the DREAM Act that helped lots of children who were brought here by undocumented immigrants get their rightful American citizenship.
Cool. So some props and suggestions. I love that you made it very concise, because off camera we practiced this and we brought it down like from this really long paragraph to something really short. So I love that you stuck to like your top three, made a very concise answer. And I also like, but I would improve on how you opened, which was like acknowledging that you're not an immigrant. And so there's an aspect of the immigrant experience that you can't empathize with. But I wouldn't lean on that one too much as much as I did. I would touch on it and say, I'm not an immigrant, but here's what I know, as opposed to kind of, because you don't want to like devoid yourself of any credibility. You kind of just want to focus on what you know. But other than that, that was pretty good. Do you want to turn the question around?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
all right, my turn.
Question.
Yes, Kennedy.
If that is your real name.
It is my real name.
What would Andrew Yang do for the immigrant community?
So there's a lot of things that Andrew Yang wants to do. The very first thing I would recommend is going to yang2020.com. And he has an entire section on his policy page dedicated to immigration reform and immigration plans. Now, the top three things that he would do that I want to highlight are: number one, for all 11 million undocumented immigrants currently residing in the United States, offer them a path to citizenship as an 18-year track, which is equal to how long it takes a national born citizen to reach all of their rights as a citizen. Will provide a path to citizen track for all 11 million people, that they allow them to stay in the community, be fruitful members of society without, and allow them to pay taxes and allow them to come out of the shadows. And that allows us to treat them as humans. And then the second thing that I want to highlight is securing our southern border and increasing funding so that we have the resources to treat people who come to our country humanely by funding asylum courts, by funding attorneys, and funding humanitarian aid at the border. And so those are the top two things that he would do for immigrants. And he can do a lot more, and it's all on his website. Okay, thoughts and criticism of that answer?
I think it was like, well, first of all, I always plug the website. That is something that we have learned is like very helpful.
Yes, always plug the website.
The source, and it kind of is like, well, if I'm wrong, I thought that like your two main ones were very helpful. Actually, there was a study done in 2017 that said 75% of Americans view immigrants as having like a generally good effect on the economy. And so I think the part when you were saying like, oh, they're fruitful members of society, depending on your audience, you might not have to go into that.
Okay.
I think there's like a very limited number of people that like really hate immigrants, and I think you will know when you're talking to that kind of person.
Yeah, know your audience.
Yes, because you can cater it sort of to that.
Good point. Good point.
I like what you do with your hands. That's like
sometimes I go overboard. Sometimes it's just right.
Yeah, like when you like do the sliding thing.
Well, I like to say all 11 million.
Yes. Oh yeah, I love the numbers too. If you can throw in the math.
Yeah.
When you're like 11 million people, that's like, oh, there's like 11 million people. Like,
also, and I'll touch on this. I'll do one little tip. But I also like to hear your criticism. But one thing I would suggest for anyone listening, working on improving their skills, I would highly recommend not using the word illegal immigrant. Try to go towards undocumented immigrant for two reasons. One, if you're talking to a progressive, illegal immigrant is kind of offensive because there's nothing illegal about being alive and being a human being. So that's why we generally use the term undocumented, because that's more accurate, precise, and respectful. And the second thing is if you use the term illegal with a more conservative audience, then you kind of like shoot yourself in the foot because it proves their premise correct, if you know what I mean. Right?
Also, really quick, sorry, this is a prop. This is not like
oh yeah,
not the cord. So for everyone being like, oh, it's bad audio, we're sorry. This microphone isn't connected to anything. Yes.
I promise we'll actually connect it next time. We just forgot the cable. Teaser, tune in next Sunday.
For a working mic.
Yeah, for a working mic. But we have better visuals, if you didn't notice. Okay, sorry. Who was talking earlier? You were. I was. Oh, yeah. So whenever you're talking about immigration, it's that audio echo. Generally, use the term undocumented versus illegal because it's just more productive and more precise.
The hard question?
Yes. All right. That was a softball question. Now we're going to go to.
That was a softball question?
Yeah. Because there's some, like, if you were paying attention, there's some really interesting stuff about customs enforcement, i.e. ICE. Yes. And depending on who you're talking to, you might get tripped up on that. And so we wanted to exercise it. So you want to ask me first, or you want to be asked?
Yes, I will ask you first.
You'll ask me first.
So okay. You can do it first.
All right.
Okay. There are a lot of people on the progressive and democratic side that are all for abolishing ICE.
Right.
So would Andrew Yang abolish ICE? And if you look at his plan, he actually increases funding to ICE. So what is the deal with that?
Okay, cool. So basically, I understand what we want as a country. And it's that we want to end this inhumane, this cruel treatment of people on the border, where families are separated from their children, where people are not granted the asylum that they have a constitutional right to request. And so, and we want to end this, mass deportation of people who are just trying to live their life. So there's a lot of things we want to stop. And all of the policies we've talked about, path to citizenship, protecting the DREAM Act, those all help curb the awful things we want to end. But there's also a lot of things that we need to do more of, like increasing funding to asylum courts so that people can actually be processed more efficiently, increasing humanitarian aid on the border so that people who are escaping human trafficking or sex trafficking have the resources of the people to take care of them. And so if we want people to have a way to legally enter this country and be productive members of society, we need to have those resources in place to do that. And we can't ignore providing those resources. And so when you look at what Andrew Yang wants to do, he's talking about increasing attorneys, increasing the ability to accept more asylum cases, making sure that there's people on the border to accept people who are escaping traffickers or smugglers. And so it's really about increasing what we want more of in terms of humanitarian aid and less of what we want, decreasing stuff like deportation or separating families.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a follow-up question.
Sure.
How can Andrew Yang say that he is humanity first if you just said he's still increasing that funding to ICE and still deporting people?
Right. So it's humanity first in the sense that what do we want this country to stand for, which is making sure that people have a way into this country legally and making sure that if they come to our border, there's someone to take care of them with water, food, and shelter. It's making sure they're not separated from their families and making sure that there's a system in place that allows people to exercise their constitutional right to request asylum. If you don't have ICE, you don't have that facility to take people in. And so putting humanity first doesn't mean burning the building down. Putting humanity first means looking at what people need and what it takes to get there. And if what it takes to treat people humanely is increasing funding and reforming a controversial department, then increasing funding and reforming a controversial department is what we need to do.
I think that was a really good last part where if burning the building down, that's not going to feed people,
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so if you research this, the topic, and by the way, this is why we started late because we took a long time. We actually called people and asked them to kind of chime in off camera, but it's there's a lot of things you want to stop, but there's also a lot of things you want to do. And getting rid of ICE will stop the bad stuff, but it won't do any of the good stuff, like attorneys and asylum court and those resources. All right, ready for the answer to the question we turn back on you?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Why is it that Andrew Yang wants to increase spending to ICE when there's a consensus on the progressive left to abolish it?
Right. So there's a huge consensus on the progressive left to abolish ICE because of their inhumane treatment and their general inefficiency and lack of respect for other human beings. Andrew Yang, whose motto is humanity first, is obviously not for any of that. He has more policies on this at yang2020.com. But Andrew Yang, ICE is not just the people that come and deport you or just the people who are on the southern border. ICE also encompasses things like asylum courts, custom enforcement, which handles drug trafficking and sex trafficking. And so those are the things that Andrew Yang would fund because we have a huge backup in our asylum courts right now. We can't get people to asylum. We can't even put them back in their own countries if we wanted to because the funding is not going to places that would actually help people. And so he's for funding ICE as in a reformation. So he would fund the things that actually help people, like asylum courts, and defund things like detention centers, which we have seen horrible conditions come out of. He would also fund body cams for all ICE agents. Like I said, we've seen terrible conditions in the detention centers, and we haven't even seen everything. And so that's very important to Andrew Yang. And he would also work with the Mexican government on all of these initiatives, as well as other governments that are in Latin America, South America, and even Asia, where we have millions. 1.7 million was the figure that I saw of undocumented Asian immigrants coming in as well.
Good answer. I think I like your answer better than mine. Because because the one thing you did really well, in my opinion, is that you said, this is ICE. This is what they do that we need to stop. And then this is what they do that, itemize essentially what they're responsible for. And by making it clear that this organization is responsible for all these things, it makes the case maybe abolishing it is not that great of an idea. I actually want to pull in someone. So we have someone here. You don't have to say anything. You want to be on camera for a second?
I'm actually just listening.
Okay, so I have here Ryan, and this is not related to immigration, but this is something he brought up, which is that we were talking about the difference between getting rid of ICE versus reforming it and changing it fundamentally. He actually, he grew up in the foster system, and we kind of gave this example of, like if you looked at like the foster system, you've had a pretty, some bad experiences in the foster system, right?
I don't mind talking about it at all. I'll keep it short. I grew up in the system. I've been to a lot of places that are good and a lot of places that are bad. Just, I don't know. It's just one of those things that's...
Yes. And so basically, I wanted to rope you into this because I wanted to make the case that, like, if you look at a situation like all the problems in the foster system, you can either say, A, that needs to change and we need to have very targeted funding in certain areas, or B, you get rid of the system altogether, which might solve a few problems or would make even more problems.
So, right? If you're talking about cutting off the system, what about the people who don't have parents?
Exactly, yeah.
What about the people who, who can't, because they're going to be thrown out on the streets. That's pure point blank. Either in a shelter or somewhere, because, again, not a lot of people have parents. Like me, I've never met my biological parents, not my mom, not my dad. I was actually born into the system. It's me, my little sister, my little brother, and yeah, it's just...
Yeah. So what we try to do is we try to tie that into, if we abolish ICE and poof, all the buildings are gone, all of the ICE agents are gone, you still have thousands of people that were in those detention centers that were being handled by customs that are just in limbo because they have, nowhere to go. And that's why it's so important to fund things like the asylum courts or to support the DREAM Act, which there have been raids of ICE agents taking people that would have been supported under the DREAM Act just 4 years ago. That is, frankly, a waste of money because we weren't doing that, and now all of a sudden we are.
Would it have a setup with the parents or I know exactly what that's like you separate from the folks. Would there be any peaceful way to where
they reunite? There's been a couple reunitings, but the problem is that some of these kids have been in the program for so long that they're actually being adopted out now, which it's more kidnapped out. But that's part of why we would need to increase funding to the asylum courts, is so you can say, oh, where are your parents? Should your parents get asylum here? Do you need to be with your parents? Which are yes to all of those. But right now we can't even get to asking those questions.
So yeah, and so I think let's end on one last question, maybe on a high note. I'll let you choose it. So, it's a very heavy topic. We really struggled with putting this one together. I don't even know how well we put it together. Yeah. But ending on a high note, what's one last thing to highlight about Andrew Yang's immigration policy?
My best friend in high school growing up, who's actually in the UNL Youth for Yang, y'all should follow them. Her parents were immigrants, and in the UTD Comments for Yang, there's several people who are immigrants, and really they're amazing and smart people, and I think it's a shame that we don't have F1 and H1B visas that aren't already more funded and aren't sponsoring more people. And I can tell you right now that I'm friends with so many people that are immigrants that are just here on their F1 visas, and I'm going to have to say goodbye to them when they graduate because there's just no way for them to stay here because it's impossible to get a job to sponsor you.
So I'm gonna pose another question. I'll make this the last one, and then we'll do our plugs at the end. And the reason I'm asking her is that she's the one who did all the homework and actually talked to people and listened to them. That's why the brown person is asking the white person this question, because she actually knows her stuff. What does Andrew Yang want to do for student immigrants, and what kind of difference would that make for those people?
Right. So UT Dallas has a huge population of international students there. And if you go to the job fairs, it is just lines. Like the lines are so long. It is hundreds of students that are waiting to go, hopefully, to a country that maybe might sponsor them. One of this 100, even if they have a straight A's and a great GPA, maybe might sponsor them, possibly. And it's just shocking how many of them are the best in their class, and they're going to get passed over for someone who just simply has their citizenship. And so with Andrew Yang providing a green card and a solid, clear 18-year path for citizenship for these people who want to be Americans and have studied in America, it would be amazing to not give away these people to other countries that they don't want to go back to, that they don't have friends in anymore. And so even just the expanding visas program, not even talking about the 18-year path to citizenship, DREAM Act, all of that, it's already a fantastic step forward in helping people retain their citizenship in America.
Right. And that's a great point. Yeah. And so the letter of those two laws of two policies are the 18-year track, which is anyone who's been undocumented for a significant period of time is eligible to that 18-year track. And then to her point about these students, if you have a F1 visa and you get a graduate degree, then you're automatically eligible for a green card, permanent resident. So, all of our notes are on the website, DallasYangGang.com.
Oh, as well as the questions. So we asked a couple questions, and there are more common criticisms, so you can practice on your friends. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. This is a really heavy topic, so we definitely recommend talking to your friends who are immigrants or immigrant families, asking their opinion, and also having them help you refine your talking points. So that when we go to other people in other Hispanic or Asian communities or any other immigrant community, we can kind of approach it with the facts and with talking points in our back pocket. So this has been DFW for Yang. You should follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We are 12 subscribers away, 13 subscribers away from 300. So please, if you're watching this, please subscribe. We will have better audio next time. I'm sorry that we teased you with this fancy, expensive microphone and it's not plugged in. But definitely follow us on social media. Our next session will be this upcoming Sunday, 1:30 p.m. Central Time. I think we're talking about housing. They've teased a new housing policy that's coming within the next week or two. So if that comes up, then we'll be talking about it. Otherwise, we have some more juicy stuff lined up. And so 1:30 p.m. Central Time on Sunday is the time that you'll want to be here if you want to join our workshop in person. We do a lot of these where we discuss the facts, discuss the talking points, and practice answering questions on each other. So that's all we got for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
I actually have questions. I didn't know if I should say